Behind the Badge Illinois, giving you the inside scoop on public safety and those who protect and serve. Your real stories directly from law enforcement experts, and get a chance to ask questions about issues you've always wanted to know more about. You have the right to remain informed. This is Behind the Badge Illinois.
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Badge Illinois. I am joined today by our good friends, Chief David Byrd up in DeKalb, and we have Joe Leonis down at the ILACP as a member of the organization. Today's conversation is going to center around what it's like to be a police officer, what you have to do to prepare yourself to become a law enforcement specialist. And there's a lot to go into it, both mentally, there's physically, there's education that goes into it. And, you just can't walk into the academy and say, hey, I just watched Chicago Police or, Hill Street Blues or, Chicago PD or whatever the heck else, CSI, and say you want to be a police officer. There's a lot that goes into it, and that's what we're going to cover today. So I'll throw it to my two great hosts, co-hosts to introduce themselves. We'll go to David first because he's the pro, and Joe, pay attention because this is how it's done. Dave?
Hey, oh my God. Hey, Dave. Hey, look, I appreciate being on the show with you two guys today. It's and a great topic. Like I said, Dave spoke. I'm Chief David Byrd from the DeKalb Police Department. I retired from the Illinois State Police after about 31 and a half years of service with ISP, and now I've been here with DeKalb over 4 years now. So I've had a great career, but when you circle back to the beginning, I think back to 1989 when I started thinking, when we brought up this topic, I'm like, man, what did I do personally to prepare for my journey? And that's back in the mid to late 80s.
You guys were still on horses back then, right? Patrolling the streets on horses.
Let's go, right on, Dave. And I will tell you, one of the biggest things I did, and probably sounds a little, you would think this would be, automatic, but I made sure I kept my nose clean. I tried to have, I tried to be a Boy Scout. I did. I knew I wanted to be in law enforcement, and I didn't know what was going to be accepted or not. So I made sure, I made sure my driving record was clean. Of course, I didn't, have any arrests in my background. My mother would have completely killed me if I'd have called her and say, "Hey, Mom, you got some bond money to come and get your crazy son out of lockup," So that was one of the. It seems automatic, but you'll be surprised now what some of the things we find in candidates' backgrounds, Dave. And Joe can speak on this as well. So you have to kind of keep yourself really you want to be in a Boy Scout type, posture, man. Like no tickets and then of course, one of the biggest things, I stayed in shape. You have to be prepared physically and mentally to take on the responsibility of being a police officer. So, those are just one of the couple of things that when I think back when I started my career, Dave, just to the community, so you guys understand, you have to be prepared. You can't get off the couch and just say, I want to be a police officer. I'm going to go and take this physical training test and this written test and think you're just going to pass it. You had to actually prepare for the moment. And that's what I did. Like I said, probably around 86, 87, I found myself really preparing for that moment, and it paid off, Dave. So just to kick us off, those are a couple of things that I personally did to make sure I was ready.
Joe, on the organization side, what type of information do you provide? What type of classes? What type of if the public wants to learn about being a police officer, what type of information and programs do you have for the public? If a parent's interested in getting and the kids involved, or if the young man or woman is interested in becoming part of the law enforcement community?
Well, there's a few things probably. And first I'll start just again, I guess I'll tell you a little bit about my journey like Dave did. I started in 1990, so we're roughly about the same age, hopefully, or close to it.
Yeah.
I was probably unique in that I was, back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was not a lot of preparation, or it was just, I answered an ad in the paper, physical paper. I actually got out a newspaper. I was unique in that I didn't have any interest in law enforcement initially. I thought I was going to go a different direction and got married young, had kids young, worked in a factory, and decided, I can't do this forever. This is not for me, and always had respect for both firefighters and police officers or even military. So I decided, well, I'm just going to see what's out there. I took a test. I got lucky. The first test I took, I got hired in Bartlett, the village of Bartlett out in Kane, DuPage, and Cook counties. It's nice town. They put me through the academy, and then I had a lot of success. I stayed there for about 26 years. And then after that, I was hired to become the chief out in Lincolnshire up in Lake County. And that's where I'm at now. I've been there for almost 9 years. So mine is not normal, but I guess when I look back at it, we've had ups and downs in recruitment, and we've seen where police departments are, just full of applicants. We get 200, 300, 400 applicants at a testing cycle. When I got to Lincolnshire, when we had all the applicants, we actually cut them in half. We had so many, we cut half of them out after the written, and we only took the top 50 percentile. Today we're getting 10, maybe 12 people, and it's all done online. It's not a whole lot is done in person until you get to the interview phase. So it's a completely different animal. I would say today we're looking for anybody willing to provide service to their community, and we'll train you. So it's different than, I don't know, even 10 years ago, you had to have a college degree in many departments or an associate's degree. And I think those times have changed too. Back to when I started, I just came out of the factory. I went to school at night to get my degree. Once I was hired, I took advantage of the tuition reimbursement and all the other opportunities. But I think we're looking for just good, solid people that want to serve their community and that we can train. It'd be ideal to say somebody that had, the passion their whole lives and, wanted to do it their whole lives, like Chief Bird. But I think that there's a lot of opportunities. We just hired somebody. We have a chief's council made up of community members. And one of those chief council folks they go to the gym. He's elderly. He goes to the gym, in the morning. He's retired. He found a guy at the gym that works there. Engaged him and basically over a few months decided, you gotta come to Lincolnshire and become a police officer. Hired him literally off of the street. The guy took our test, succeeded, sailed through all of the interview processes, really just a solid person, former football player, semi-pro and all that stuff, had the athletics. He is now going to graduate at the end of this month as the elected president of his class in the police department. And is just an informal leader, and he's one of two we hired. The other one is a team leader, but just an example of able to capture lightning in a bottle and not putting yourself as a police department in a position only take people that gravitate towards you. Sometimes you have to be laser focused and go out and get people off the street, so to speak, and put people. Everybody's a recruiter these days. You don't just have a team. Every one of your officers, everybody in your community is. So I guess back to your question, you said, what can parents say and do? Most people we see, not everybody, but most are from the community or from the area. So we like to, if they're going to travel 100 miles for a job interview, I'm not sure they're going to stay in that area. Some people just want to, get on a department and then move on somewhere else. So we are looking for local talent. Not to say we haven't taken out of state candidates, we have. But really research the departments you're entering, whether you're a county, DeKalb. I've been out to DeKalb several times. It's a bigger town. You just want to be able to drive around, see, do you fit in there? Talk to the officers. And I always say at our recruitment, don't talk to me. I'll give the speech. But when I'm done, I'm not going to work with you. I'm not your partner. You're going to work with these folks in the back of the room that are taking, your questions. Go see how you like them, and go see, take a walk around the police station, look at our squad cars. I mean, just one of the practices that we've had for a while, and I'm sure Chief Byrd does too, is you have ride-alongs mandatory because it's got to be a fit. It's, we don't want somebody just for 6 months or a year or whatever. We want somebody to see that they're going to be part of the fabric of our community. And so there's a lot of different ways to go about that, but then we just say, this is who we are. I think on the candidate side, you want to be able to match with the community that you're trying to police. So
I'll give you my real life experience, Dave. I'm going to use Rob Fairstein, my fraternity brother.
Yeah, Robbie.
So, I graduated in Northern 1988. Rob always wanted to be a police officer. He applied right out of college with ISP, and I'll never forget. He got an interview, and we have a chapter meeting every Monday night or whatever. What all a house meeting with 100 guys in the basement, and he stood up and said, "Listen, there's going to be 2 guys coming up here interviewing me and doing a background check, and they're going to be asking people around campus if they know me, and they're going to be just asking random people. They're going to stop by the house and they're going to ask people. I'm giving you a heads up." And Rob's a big guy at the time, right? He's a little softer now, but still big. He probably put on a lot of weight, but that's all. I'm doing his loan right now. He just bought a house last night, so he's a lot softer than he was back in college 2 years ago. But he won't see this and beat me up. But
that's right.
He basically said he threatened everybody with their lives. And he's like, this is not the time to screw around, and don't say, yeah, you know what, I just rolled a couple of joints with him. We got stoned and we got high and we got drunk and we went driving around, which he didn't drink and he didn't do any of that to begin with. But he's like, if you step out of line and screw this up for me, I will break every bone in your body. And can you walk through what that process is? So I know it's different, right? We're talking 30 years ago, right? 1980, 88 to 2070, whatever it is, 25, 27 years ago. But he applied. He was one of the 400 that applied, okay? And he worked its way through down to the final. And then somebody goes out, a team went out to do a background check on him, right? Listen, it's 1988. So it's not like you're hopping on the computer now and doing all your stuff as rapidly as you guys could push a couple of buttons and hit a couple of clicks and, everything pops up. They actually went out and did interviews. Are you still doing that type of deep dive on background checks with your candidates? Can you, Dave, walk us through your process, and Joe, walk us through yours?
Yeah. So, we're still, some of the things that, and you're right, Dave, when you talk about the ISP background, those were face-to-face interviews. Yeah. There were no phone calls. Unless if they called, it was because you were out of state. And then actually, I recall ISP reaching out to another state agency in another state and have one of their agents or one of their detectives go and have that face-to-face. So they just didn't believe in it. They didn't believe in calling someone on the phone. They wanted to look someone in the eyes and say, hey, and ask you a question about that candidate. So you're 100% correct with Rob. Well, Rob was in the academy class right before me. So he's 100% correct. We do a similar thing. We do make more phone calls now. We don't have as much face-to-face time with references. Our detectives, they'll get on the phone and they'll make phone calls and they will talk to people and answer. They're still trying to do the same process, but it's without the face-to-face contact. It doesn't make the background any less thorough. It truly is we're very meticulous with our background, and we make sure very diligent. But we don't do as much face-to-face, and it's just a byproduct of the officers having a very busy work schedule. We can't allow them just to go out and and spend a whole day having these driving, just to travel alone, Dave, from one place to another, from Chicago to, let's say, Central Illinois. I mean, who knows where all the references are from? We just don't have the time to allow them to do that. So we depend on them having those phone calls and having those questions answered via telephone. But at some point, they're going to speak face to face with the candidate, and that is one of the most important interviews, of course, in the process. And when we talk about the process, Dave, I'll just circle back just for everyone who's watching. It's a very daunting process. I mean, it truly is a gauntlet, Dave. When you talk about the beginning where you have to, you take this written test, you get a score, whatever that might be, and then all of a sudden you have to go in front of a police fire commission board. Every city has some type of board that's probably staffed by members of their community. So they're not law enforcement professionals per se. And now you have this interview and the chief's in there and you're trying to put on you're trying to put your best foot forward. So you go through this interview and then, you're asking questions and we only get them for 20 to 25 minutes. I mean, look, someone can walk in a room and sell you a bag of rocks if they really know what they're doing, right? I mean, if they have that, if they have that in them where they can just, and then so you get so enamored and you get excited and lately I've had to calm myself because I get excited about candidates. I had to stop doing that. I'll tell you why in a second. But I get excited about them. And then they, I'm like, hey, I love this person, this girl, this guy. They're going to be great for the department. They fit. So then they go from there to the polygraph. And then we send them to the polygraph first because we want to see if we should even be wasting our time with this candidate. We don't want to go forward, Dave, and at the end, give him a polygraph and find out he lacks integrity or he or she lacks integrity, right? So we do it early. All of a sudden, the list just completely it's just gone. It's gone. The person that you were in love with, that number one, like right now, we believe there's a jinx. You shouldn't be number one on the Cavs list. Just shouldn't be it because I have not hired anyone that's been number one on our list going into the process, which is alarming. But anyway, so, Dave, we go from the poly, they pass the polygraph. We start doing a deeper dive with the background. Background is thorough. They look good. Everything seems to be okay. And now we push them to the site. So now you got to pass the site, right? So, okay, you stopped eating crayons 5 years ago. Thank God. You pass the site, and then you move into the part where you have to take the power test or the physical training test to get into the academy. This where it's been breaking my heart. I just sent 2 guys to do this, and both of them came up short on the sit-ups. And this is what I mean. Like, you can't get off the couch and just run and do this. It doesn't work that way. You have to prepare for this. But these kids nowadays, I mean, they're 23, 24-year-olds. Look, and when I tell you, Dave, you look them, if they came into the room, you would assume that they could do these sit-ups. They don't have, it's not like they're coming in they're not heavy. They don't look out of shape. But then they get down there and they can't accomplish this goal, and then that's it. So we've done all this work to get them to this point, and they can't physically get past the test. And it's
have the sit-ups first.
I mean, so the order of the test, I mean, that's determined by the academy. I mean, like with ISP, the run was last because they figured we don't want to tire you out before you do everything else.
Right.
So we'll do the run last. So most people are more concerned about the run unless you're a runner. If you're a runner, this is probably cake to you. But we do the bench press. You do all those things first. But the one thing they couldn't get through, the one kid missed the sit-ups by like 8 sit-ups. I mean, I'm like, how is that possible when you say you knew you wanted to be a police officer? So that's when I go back to the preparation. Like, you have to prepare for this. You should already be in the gym. As soon as you say, hey, I'm going to be a law enforcement officer. Okay, there are things you have to stop doing. If you're doing cannabis, I know it's legal now. You can't do it. That you need to stop now because you can't do that as a police officer. So don't wait until the last second. And the officers are going to ask you, when's the last time you smoked cannabis, right? They're going to ask. And then when they do, and you say, oh, yeah, I stopped a week ago. Come on, man. Come on. Like, you knew you were going to be, you knew this is something that you wanted. It was a goal. I would feel more comfortable saying, hey, I haven't done that. If I was someone who was partaking, I wouldn't have done that. I would have feel more comfortable saying, I haven't done that in 2 years. Because I knew I wanted to be a police officer. I knew it wasn't going to be acceptable for me, once I got within the ranks, you can't do it. So it just sounds better to me personally. As a chief, I don't want to know you, even though it's legal now, and I understand that. But I started from a time day when it wasn't legal, so it was something that wasn't even you could consider. Like you're not going to get this job, man. So it's this week has been a little rough for us because we were so excited. The one kid did make it the second time. The other kid didn't make it the second time. So now the two people that I had going to academy, now I'm down to one because they passed everything else, but they couldn't. But they thought that they could just get off the couch and go and do these tests. It doesn't work that way.
Joe, what's your experience?
Well, we've been lucky lately. And I hear you on the power test. The power test is the test that's statewide. It's required for the academy. It's not required necessarily if you're a transfer, if you're a lateral, like if you already have experience, which is kind of ironic, right? Because I don't know how many of our cops can pass the power test today, or do sit-ups or run or whatever. You just have to do it once in your career before you enter the academy, which is, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but we do have them do the test before, and they have like a card that says that they passed it. And then we hope that they'll be able to do it at the academy level. But we do understand that, today's recruits too are also different. All of the guys and gals in my department are ones that I've hired in the last 8 years. None of them, they just don't do the things we used to do when we were younger. They play golf. They don't drink coffee. They drink these monsters or whatever the energy drinks are. They play
Red Bull
games.
Red Bull, yeah.
They're not going out and getting stupid for the most part. We don't have those. I just don't see it as much. They're so we've been blessed or lucky or whatever you want to call it with the new sort of fangled generation. They're tech savvy. They know how to operate all of the computers. Luckily, body worn cameras they're not freaking out over. But I think for us, our big thing is that interview, and it's the background. We do go to their home and talk to their parents or their spouse or whomever, but we have a different process because we actually don't have a fire and police commission. It's just us. And because of that, we actually operate more like a business. So when you want to apply to us, you give us your resume and you give us a cover letter. That's it. And then there is an online test just to make sure that you know how to read, write, and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, you go through a panel interview of officers, and they scrutinize you. They're pretty tough. And sometimes we had to tell them, like, listen, you got to back off on these questions a little bit because they're not cops. They're looking for the weaknesses. And then we have a command staff interview, and I'm the last one to interview. And by that time, I've had some success and some not success because when somebody's passed all these levels, you kind of want to just pass them. You think, well, you're trusting in your people, but even if you meet them and you're going, I just don't know, something's not right. But you're like, well, they must be okay, and those people haven't worked out. So I have to trust my gut when I see them and we talk. And if I'm leaning forward and I'm like, tell me more about that, then I know I got somebody I want. But if I'm looking at them and I'm saying, they don't have, it's not the right fit for us, then I tell them, it's just not gonna work. They could work somewhere else maybe and be a fit. We're small. We're not DeKalb size or state police, so you would stick out if you didn't want to work. Or one of the questions I started asking lately is, have you ever been punched in the face? Because, and it sounds like a joke, but The
No,
reality,
it's real. It's real.
the lack of conflict, or when you get the kids out of college, they've had no jobs. They're just straight from high school to college or whatever, and they've never, some of them not involved in sports or whatever. And I say that like, have you ever been in sports or, a fight or whatever at school or whatever? Because we de-escalate 99% of what we deal with, but we've seen officers freeze when that conflict happens. And it's a make or break it moment. And so you can't decide, you don't want to fight anybody on the street once you're a cop. You have to sort of know that in your heart. You either have to be, it's a light bulb moment. It's either it's on or off. And that's tough to discern because the psych test that Chief Bird's talking about doesn't necessarily tell you that you have the guts to jump in when necessary. We're really cautious about too physical or too, you know what I mean? People that fight all the other side. The other side we're seeing is, and especially in colleges today, they're really pushing a de-escalation. So now we have people at the job interview really emphasizing that and not emphasizing the fact that they may have to take someone's life. Unfortunately, they may have to take them into custody using force. There's a lot of situations that require that. And the public, if it was your loved ones in jeopardy, the police officer can't freeze up at that point. So yeah, we can train them, but there's a lot more than goes into just, I guess, sit-ups, push-ups, the like. It's, do you have the psyche, an ability to join and to do what's necessary?
And when that happens, like if you've got a great candidate that you feel really good about, right? And you lean in and like, hey, have you ever been punched in the face? And listen, I've been punched in the face. You guys have probably been punched in the face. We grew up playing sports and just rough housing with your friends, and you get an elbow in the face, you get a knee. Yeah, it wasn't like I got into fist fights. You just got whacked, right? Probably 4 or 5 concussions growing up.
Just shake it, shake it off, right?
Yeah, I mean, fall off your bike, smack your head, right? I mean, you're jumping shit when you're a kid on your Stingray, and you castrate yourself and you go over the handlebars and you bang your head, and then you get up, you're like, damn, that was what's going on. Why is the room spinning? Why do I have a headache? And you get back on your bike and you probably had a grade 2 concussion back then. Who the hell knows, right?
Right.
Maybe that's why I black out every once in a while now, but not while driving. But so when that happens, Joe, do you just haul back because you've got a great candidate and you just whack them right in the face right there just to see their reaction? Is that something? Have you ever thought about that?
It's only happened once. No,
only once.
My staff has told me I shouldn't.
You can't do that. HR came in and said not a good idea.
We do talk to them about maybe training with us. We do defensive tactics training, and we have asked, do you want to witness or participate in some of the ground fighting just to see what the job is? And I'm saying good candidates can learn. But if you think, and you pointed out, Dave, about, CSI and all this other stuff, if you think just going to go into forensics, that might be good in the FBI, but in law enforcement, you're going to start on the road. You're going to probably be on midnight shift. You're going to probably be with other younger officers. And so, you're going to deal with people who are intoxicated, under the influence, that don't want to be told no. They're going to look at you and think because of your age, they can take advantage in all the things that we experience. But it is a good, I don't know what the answer is. I think if you're able to learn, but I think ultimately you have to have that conversation. Are you willing to do what it takes? And are you willing to learn?
Yeah. So back, is there, I would assume a high school education is a minimum, right? I would have to assume that. Is there any type of associate degree or a bachelor's degree needed? Or if you get somebody at the gym who graduated high school, like here, I'll give you a perfect example. Joe Romano, who got the chief job in Niles, right? I went to high school with Joe, right? He graduated Maine East in 1988. He went right to the Niles Police Department, I think like right out of high school. He was doing dispatch, and I mean, he's a perfect success story, right? Started at the lowest rung, probably running coffee for people, getting sandwiches. And now 30 years later, Joe just got named the police chief of Niles, right? He worked his way up to deputy chief and all the way up. And he went back to school while he was getting in line when the chief said, "Hey, I'm going to be hanging it up. You might want to go back, get some, finish whatever needs to be finished," and he did, and Joe got the job, right? I'm sure he was highly qualified. I'm sure being there 25, 30 years didn't hurt.
Yep.
And so, are you taking kids out of high school like Joe was? I mean, walk us through that, guys.
So when I got here, I would tell you, it was not a high school diploma. There was college requirement just for entry level to even apply here. So a couple of years went by. I had to, I won't say it wasn't an argument. It was more of a spirited conversation with our fire police commission. Because
in DeKalb. Okay.
Now let me just tell you this, and these are great people who are on this commission. Now we have one lady who was a professor at Northern Illinois. Now now you have to put this in perspective because this woman was fantastic, but I guarantee you, the majority of the people that she conversates with on a daily basis have masters or doctorates.
Right.
I mean, truly. I mean, that's just what she's used to. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah, and I get
that's her population, right? I mean, that's her. Right.
Those are her experiences. So now she's talking to a guy from the South Side of Chicago. She's probably like, oh, and we got along great. But what I tried to explain to her was that, and it showed, the proof was in the pudding. I said we should go back to allowing a candidate with a high school diploma to apply to be a entry-level police officer. Dave, when I started, all of my supervisors were military. They came from the military. They didn't have college education. These guys were officers in the military, the Marine Corps, the Army, Armed Forces, all different branches. And they were fantastic leaders. They were. And then we talked about experiences about getting punched in the face. Believe me, those guys got punched in the face. And even to Joel's point, and he's right, and I'll circle back, but I did want to talk about experiences because that's one of the things I wonder about as well, because I know some of my officers, when they started their career, had never been in a fist fight. And it was no fault of their own. They grew up in towns, which is a good thing. I mean, truly. I mean, I grew up on the South Side of Chicago. You got into fights with the gangster disciples all the time, going back and forth to school. I mean, it was like, they tried to steal your money all the time. I mean, you had to fight, right?
Yeah, right.
And I'm happy that they didn't go through that because, that's not a good, is that a good childhood? Truly, I would have traded places with them. I'm like, hey, man, I'd rather not be bothered with that. My best friend got shot his sophomore year in high school. We were coming back from football practice. We rode our bikes on 63rd Street. We got to King Drive, and then he would go north. I would go south. I say, hey, man, I'll see you tomorrow at practice. Boom, we take off. I get back the next day, he ain't in practice. Now, of course, back then we didn't have cell phones, and so we didn't always communicate like that. But then but coach was like, hey, Dave, where's, OJ? I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I'll call him. So I called from the phone at the school, and mom was like, yeah, he got shot last night. They tried to take his bike. Now, luckily, and this is my best friend, God, I'm so happy that, he had a through and through his biceps, so he lived. But I guess what I'm saying is we would have traded places to go somewhere where you can go to football practice without taking a bullet over your Swin bike, right?
Sure.
So that's why I say experiences are different for everyone. But Joe's right. You have to be able to have that command, that police presence during your job. You have to have police presence, and you're something that you can develop it. But you got to have it in you because you got to be able to go at it because they're going to go at you. So those are experiences. It's hard to dictate those things, Dave, to figure out if they have it in an interview or not, because like Joe said, we need to get on the mat with you. Most of my guys are doing jujitsu. They're doing ground fighting. They do this extra. And that's when hey, I get you in a headlock. What are you going to do? You just going to tap out? You're going to try to get out of this? What you going to do? So at the end of the day, those experiences are truly different. But just circling back, what we were talking about before, Dave, is that I think I lost my train of thought. What was that question, Dave? I went back.
Coming out of high school. And
High school.
Coming out of high school.
Yeah. So I had this discussion, and finally we went to an interview, and this young man came in with he had a master's degree. He wanted to be a police officer. So the kid goes out, and everyone on the commission is like, oh, I would never let that person be a police officer. I was like, time out. This is your guy. This is your guy. He's got a master's degree. I mean, he was smart kid, you know.
Checks all the boxes.
This is the guy. This is your guy. But you're saying you'll never want. Well, he's like, yeah, it seemed like he lacked common sense. Bingo. I was like, yes, that's right. And so, Dave, I say you have to understand, if you believe that on this end of the spectrum, there's this man who has a master's or a doctorate, and you don't want him to be a police officer because he doesn't have common sense, you have to believe on the other end of the spectrum, there's somebody working at Jiffy Lube who has amazing work ethic, who comes to work every day, works his butt off, taking care of his family, but he can't afford college. And you don't want to give this guy an opportunity just to come in as an entry-level police officer? I'm not saying if you have goals and you seek promotion, yes, I think you should start. I mean, you know, extended education is important. But if someone wants to come in on the entry level and be a police officer, and you're not, and I said, they made my own case for me. I was like, I'm telling you, the fact that you didn't want this person means that on the other end of the spectrum, there's a diamond in the rough who's waiting to be a police officer. And we are basically taking a percentage of the population and saying, you can't be a police officer because you don't have a college degree. Although your work ethic is amazing, you come to work on time every day and you work your butt off, which is what we truly want. And
Right.
You have common sense and you have people skills, but you don't have a college education. So sorry, buddy, you can't be a cop. That I was like, and then finally they agreed with me. And now we do high school level, you know, because people say, oh, you're dropping your standards. No, we're not. We're letting them get in the door. They still have to meet the standard. If they don't meet the standard, they don't get the job. So to me, at the end of the day, we're just giving them an opportunity, Dave, to submit an application and be a police officer entry level. Now, if they want, just like you were talking about, Joe, the years of experience matter way more than the education. That's why he became chief. Guaranteed. They said this man been here 26 years. He knows this department inside and out. He probably knows the people inside and out. He should be the chief of this police department. And I'm not going to base it just because he didn't have a college degree when he started his career. So, I mean, I'm very adamant about this because, you know, and I will just tell you transparently that I left college without my degree to become a state trooper. And I am being completely transparent. I'm taking classes right now. I was only missing like 15 credits, right? And but I'm doing this for myself. I mean, I went through my whole career without the college degree. Right now I'm finishing, but I'm doing it for myself. I mean, I'm not doing it because it's needed. No, I mean, they hired me without my college degree, but at the end of the day, I do want my degree. So I'm finishing, I'm online doing a lot of this now, but I'll probably be the oldest graduate and fall down in Louisiana. They're like, hey, who is this old man walking across at 58 years old getting this degree, but that's just my own personal thing. But yeah, Dave, I mean, I'm very, I get spirited conversation about this just because I just know that we're just cutting off a certain population of people. And I just don't believe that's right.
And how do you guys see it up north here, Joe?
Well, we have had different requirements of education, and like Dave's saying, we got rid of the college degree requirement. Part of it's expectations too, and college degrees can be barriers. I would say when I started, I had a high school diploma. I went to night school. I basically went downtown. There was no online classes back then, and in the 1900s. And then I had to commute back by train and get to the midnight shift.
Yo, where'd you go? Roosevelt?
DePaul.
DePaul. Gotcha.
Yeah. And then, so I got my bachelor's degree in English, which everybody made fun of me because they said, you know, I was going to be a poet or something, but I felt that that was important. And I wasn't sure, again, when my career path, I wasn't sure how long I was going to stay in law enforcement. So I thought maybe lawyer or something like that, that would be important. But once I got in the academy, I got the bug, and it was pretty much I was going to be a lifer. But I think that it really comes down to expectations. After I got my college degree, I went back and I got my master's degree because I knew if I had stopped, I wouldn't go back and get it because it's a lot of work. And now I've been teaching at the college level for the last 20 years, and then I teach a class down at DePaul. So it all comes full circle. But I think when you look at kids, and I'm saying kids, but adults coming into the profession, when they watch, there's a new medical show out called The Pit. It's on
Yeah.
HBO. Really intense and really cool. And if you want to become a doctor in the emergency department, you watch that, you're like, well, I don't know if all that stuff can happen in 12 hours like they're showing, but
Right.
certainly gives you the how the underbelly of medicine is in an emergency department and how critical care is. And, you know, my wife's a nurse, and she really enjoys the medical, you know, it's sort of hard science. But if you were to want to become a cop based on television, you're going to watch these police shows that are showing everything from a distance, you know. And when we talk about fighting, they don't show that on television shows where a normal fight's going to last under a minute. You know, 90 seconds, you're exhausted. You know,
Exhausted.
and force is ugly when it's done. And, you know, it's not the movies. And so that's why people aren't always prepared for that. And so when they look at television, they're like, oh, well, you know, it must be like that FBI show or whatever. And that's where I think expectations are. You're going to see a lot of stuff maybe you would never have seen growing up. Are you prepared? And it's not to say you can't be trained for it, but up here in Lake County, I would say that most of the departments are smaller. We rely on each other. We're short-staffed. By short-staffed, I mean, we may only have 3 cops on the street at any given time. So you have to be self-reliant. You have to be able to think on your feet. I do agree, college is important in somebody's life for a lot of reasons, but it's not absolutely necessary to begin working in an entry-level position. The critical thinking skills that college can give you is important. But again, if you look at the military as an example, people know what they're getting into when they join the military. They know they have to be a soldier first. My nephew is going into the Marines, and he's right out of high school. He's going to go right in, and he's been training with the recruiter to get ready. They do this weekend boot camp stuff for the high school kids. They get them prepared mentally, physically. You know, he's a football player, and he's all in. He was a Eagle Scout. You know, very good grades in high school, and this is just, he decided to go into that direction. I think what we need to do, policing, is to do something similar. We can't hire them out of high school because they're not 21. We can hire them at 20 if they turn 21 before they graduate, which we've done. But if you look about what does the future look like for policing in the next 5 or 10 years, I think we have to look at it differently. And I think we probably should get better at our recruitment at a different age set or different age group and be more accessible. We talk about transparency all the time. But if you think about this, if you're going to be on the job, let's say 15 years from now, your partner is in kindergarten right now.
Yeah.
The 6-year-olds in kindergarten are going to be 21 and are going to be working side by side with you. And the kids in middle school, high school, all that stuff. So I think that recruitment starts a lot earlier than just when they graduate college or community college.
I agree.
And I'm sure you've talked about this before. I won't belabor the point, but our profession has seen better times in the public eye too. So
sure,
that's tough to when a kid comes home and tells his folks he wants to become a cop. Do they say, yeah, that's a great idea, you should go do that? Or do they say, what about paralegal?
Yeah, you're right, Joe. Parents are like, you know, I had a young student from North Central College. She came here 2 days ago. She's doing a paper on recruiting, some type of paper she's doing. She's going to other police departments, talking about recruitment and what, what's so tough about it. But one of the things I expressed to her, which I would tell both of you guys, and I want the people to know, and it's important that they understand, is that when you brought it up, Joe, we talk about how law enforcement has been put in a bad light, and some of the things that have occurred. You talk about George Floyd, and that's probably one of the most recent things where you really Sonia Massey, some of these type of things. You go back to Rodney King.
Rodney King.
I was on the street when that happened, believe me, and I get it. And I know why people feel the way they do when you look at these situations. And I told her, one of the things that's shocking to me is that myself and my brother is a commander with Chicago Police Department. We both have, he has 4 children, I have 3. But the biggest thing is, between the two of us, we have 4 boys. We both have 2 boys. Now, I would tell you that we are their heroes. They love us. They adore us. Everything, I put that out there and just being honest about that. But the weird part about it is most times your son, looks up to their father. They want to do what they do. Out of the 4 of them, not one of them has even once talked about being a police officer. And I will tell you it's a cultural thing, because it's not because it's because what they've seen in the social media, the situations that have occurred, because they're my counterparts who are white, their sons still want to be police officers. They still follow in their footsteps. You see firemen, they follow in their footsteps. Same thing with policing, but you don't see that in the Black community. And it's apparent with our 4 boys, that is almost unbelievable that the 4 of them they don't even talk to us about it. They don't even consider it, and they grew up in a law enforcement family. When they were born, I think when they came out of the womb, it was nothing but police officers around them. I'm like, truly. I mean, everyone who came up to the room to visit the babies, when they were, they still sitting in their little crib and it's all cops, but yet and still none of them want to be police officers. So I had to ask myself, why is that? And when I talked to them, they like, Dad, after seeing what happened with George Floyd and some of the things, it's not for me. I get it, because as a Black man, I still get a lot of pressure. Even after, like I said, I start my 36th year here soon. After all these years, people still look at me and say, well, how can you be a police officer? Yeah. After seeing what they have done, to our culture in certain situations. I mean, and believe me, I tell people all the time, police officers it's one of the most honorable positions you can ever be in. And 98, 99% of the officers are fantastic. Every now and then we get a bad apple, and it's the loud minority, and it's hard to get control of that, because they do things that makes us look so bad, and it's hard to recover, especially in when you're talking about in the Black neighborhood. So I get questioned about that even up to this day. People, but it was the right thing. I'm in the right profession. I know I am. I believe, I got faith in everything that we do as a law enforcement agency. I truly do. And I try to express this. Not heck, my family tougher on me than when George Floyd happened. Oh my God, my phone flew up. I mean, it was like, what in that? Is this what you guys do? This is what you guys do all the time? They're the things that you guys do. I can't believe you're a part of this if this is what's occurring. So here I am fighting with my family. Like, back up, hold up. I'm trying to express to them, like, no, that's not the case. You haven't been, you don't understand. This is a very small minority, and some bad apples get through the cracks. I mean, it's what any profession. I mean, truly, but our profession is it's different for us, because look, we can legally take someone's life. I mean, in certain situations, yes, we can do that. So we can take your freedom. So I get it. It's important that we do things the right way. And it's important that we are, that we try to close these cracks down and not have someone be a police officer who shouldn't wear this badge. I mean, this is an honor to wear this badge, and they shouldn't wear it if they're not going to be, if they're not going to have the integrity and the ability to do this job fairly, impartially. They just shouldn't be wearing the badge, man. So I deal with a lot of this even to this day, but when we talk about recruitment, that's one of the things that's so odd to me about, what my brother and I go through with our kids. It's just shocking to me. I just want that point to be made when we talk about recruitment. It's not.
None of my kids are cops either. Just
So I mean, and I get it. And to your point, their reasonings are probably similar, maybe similar, or maybe not. But I also know that some of these kids don't want to do it because of what they've seen on social media and some of the things that occurred in some other agencies across the country. I mean, what do you do about it? Just try to close those cracks up so we don't have any bad apples sliding through there. So,
well, if it makes you guys feel better, none of my 3 girls want to join me in the mortgage business.
They didn't want to do the mortgage.
So I just want, full disclosure, throw that out there. All right, we got to wrap it up here. I'll give you, Dave, took a 1-minute question, turned it into a 7-minute.
7-minute answer.
Yeah, a 7-minute answer. So
Joe, I do that all the time.
I know you do.
It's who I am.
I've enjoyed it.
So we got enough of Dave. We'll let you end this episode of Behind the Badge Illinois, Joe. You take us out, buddy.
All right. Well, I guess first of all, thanks for having me, and these are important conversations to have. I'm glad that we're able to do this in this format because hopefully it has some longevity, and people who are interested in the profession or the kids are, whatever, they can think about these things. I do think, Dave pointed out his kids not wanting to join, or your kids in your profession. I think we also have to understand that they see us and what we've gone through in our careers and what we've come home and whether we've shared or haven't shared. And, sometimes they just don't want that life,
Right.
and that's
I don't want to deal with it.
I think that I still believe in this profession, and in this profession is a calling, and it's bigger than us. And if you have that in you, you want to be part of something bigger than yourself, then you're great for this job. Again, firefighting, military, or something like that, where there's a higher calling, where you can get out of your own way sometimes and just say, this is for the greater cause. I think that's the people that we really need in this profession. I'm excited that the profession has responded in the way that it has, at least in Illinois. I'm proud to be an Illinois police officer because I've gone around different states, and policing is done differently everywhere. But we really do have excellent training. We have excellent training academies. We have excellent leadership at the municipal level, county level. So, and that can't be said everywhere. But I just think that we're positioned in a better place than we feel. It's always like we use our past experiences to try to predict the future. And, they say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, because you just have no idea what the future is going to hold. 5 years from now, we could all be different jobs, doing different things that we never even imagined. And that's one of the best things I've liked about policing in my career personally, is that I've had a lot of different experiences, whether it's investigations, major crimes. I was a school resource officer, all of these different things. Loved every minute of it, and no day has been the same. And I'm honored to be part of a profession like that. So I'll end on a positive note.
You got it. Well, we appreciate you taking your time to be part of this, Dave. As always, apologize for the late start. We had a little senior moment on my side here. Portion of Behind the Badge Illinois is sponsored by me and from Hochberg. Looking to purchase a new home, refinance your existing home, give us a call. We give discounts to all first responders, teachers, EMTs, military. Love to have the opportunity to earn your business. And appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate Dave for joining us, Joe for joining us. And we're going to sign off until the next episode. Thanks, guys.